He didn't even look me in the eye when he said it. "I'm leaving you. You got too fat." That was it. 25 years of marriage, 2 children, 3 houses, 1 miscarriage, and 1,000 tiny sacrifices. Ended with a sentence that felt like a slap. He didn't say he wasn't happy. He didn't say he had fallen out of love. He didn't even pretend to be sorry. Just that, I got too fat. And then he turned back to his phone. I thought it was a joke. I laughed. I actually laughed like an idiot until I saw him walk to the window and wave. That's when I saw her, the woman waiting in the car. Blonde, younger, teeth too white. She honked. Twice. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," he said. "The kids already know." The kids already knew. My heart dropped. My daughter couldn't even look at me. My son stood up to say something, then sat back down. Shame was thick in the room, coating everything like smoke. I felt myself unravel. In my mind, I begged my legs to move, to walk away, to scream, to smash something. But my body betrayed me, just like he said I had betrayed him by letting myself go. I whispered, "You're kidding." He shook his head. "We haven't touched each other in months. You're not the woman I married. I deserve to be happy." That's when the rage started. Not hot, not loud, but cold, still, focused. Because in that moment, I knew one thing for sure. He had just destroyed the only thing that ever held me back. My silence. The silence after he left was louder than any fight we'd ever had. I didn't cry at first. I just sat there, staring at the door he'd closed behind him. The car engine started. He drove off with her. The girl with my husband's new future in her passenger seat. The girl I now knew had been smiling behind my back for months, maybe longer. I walked to the mirror in the hallway, the one he used to kiss me in front of. I looked at myself. Not my body, not my weight. My face. My eyes. I looked like a ghost in my own home. Let me back up a second. My name is Olivia Reeves. I'm 47 years old. I used to be an art teacher before I gave it all up to raise our children and help Grant build his business. I once dreamed of opening a gallery. Instead, I hosted dinner parties and balanced budgets. I made our life work, quietly, like women always do. And now I was disposable. I stood there in that hallway and felt shame crawl up my skin like ants. Not because of my body, but because I let him make me small, over years, inch by inch, until I disappeared. I remembered the first time he told me I shouldn't wear red. "It's too loud," he said. "You're not the type for that color." So I stopped, just like that. One red dress went into the Goodwill bag. So did pieces of me, one by one. I remembered sitting in waiting rooms while he got his root canal, his colonoscopy, his promotion. I remembered baking birthday cakes and pretending store-bought was fine because I didn't want to mess it up. I remembered listening to him flirt with waitresses and laugh about it later. I remembered keeping the peace. That night, I opened our wedding album. I turned the pages slowly, looking at our young faces. He looked at me like I was everything. And I believed it. God help me, I believed it. Then I turned to the last page, closed the book, and carried it outside. I lit it on fire in our backyard grill. And I watched it burn. Every promise, every vow, every kiss. The next morning, I got up before the sun. I didn't shower, I didn't eat. I went straight to Grant's office, the one in the back of the house he thought I never entered. I started going through drawers, files, old tax returns. I didn't even know what I was looking for yet. I just knew that if I sat still, I'd go mad. Then I found it, a password notebook. Classic, hidden under a stack of car manuals. Men always think they're smarter than they are. I logged into his email. His messages with her were all there. Months of filth, plans, money transfers, reservations, naked selfies, love notes. But something else caught my eye. Forwarded legal documents, shell company paperwork with my name on them. My name. I didn't know much about finance, but I knew enough to be scared. That afternoon, I confronted our daughter, Ellie. She wouldn't even look up from her phone. "Did you know?" I asked. She blinked. "Mom, he said you were depressed, that you pushed him away." I felt like I'd been slapped. Again. "And you believed that?" "I didn't want to," she whispered. I turned to my son, Daniel. "Did you?" He shook his head. "No, Mom. I told him he was a coward. I told him if he left, he'd regret it." I nodded. Good. From that moment on, I was no longer his wife. I was something else. A threat. I documented everything. I took screenshots. I recorded phone calls. I met with a lawyer, not to sue, not yet, but to learn. I wasn't going to scream in public. I wasn't going to break down and beg. Number I was going to become invisible. And from the shadows, I would ruin him. The next confrontation was with Grant himself. I called him under the pretense of needing help with the mortgage transfer. He arrived smug, confident, reeking of new cologne. "You're taking this better than I thought," he said, stepping into the house. I smiled. "You always underestimated me." As he explained how we could separate things smoothly, I nodded, listening. But every word he said, every sentence, just made the cold fire in my chest burn hotter. "I'll let you keep the house," he said, "as long as you agree not to touch the business." There it was. He thought he still had the upper hand. "Of course," I said sweetly, "wouldn't dream of interfering." He smiled. I recorded the whole conversation. He didn't notice my phone was live on the table, recording everything, including the part where he bragged about hiding money offshore. Later that night, I replayed the audio 3 times. I took notes. I emailed backups to a private account. Then I started building a new version of myself. Not the broken woman in the mirror, but the one rising from her ashes. This wasn't over. It was just getting started. Every night, after the house went quiet, I sat on the floor of our bedroom, no, my bedroom now, and wrote. It started as scribbles, anger, pain. Then it turned into clarity, patterns. Memories I'd buried started coming back with sharp edges. Words he'd used. The way he'd roll his eyes when I laughed too loud. How he flinched when I gained weight after Daniel was born. The subtle, constant erosion of who I was. In one entry, I wrote, "He didn't destroy me. He just showed me who he really was. And that's a gift, not a curse." It was the first time I'd felt proud in months. I started doing things I hadn't done in years. I joined a yoga class. The first session, I could barely stretch without feeling tears press behind my eyes. But I stayed. I finished the class. When the instructor said, "You did something powerful just by showing up," I broke. Quietly on the mat, face to the floor, sobbing. But no one stared. They let me have that moment. And when I stood up, I felt lighter. I reached out to an old college friend, Ava. She answered on the first ring. "Liv," she said, "oh my God, is it really you?" We met for coffee. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't need to. She just said, "You're still here, and you still matter." A week later, I pulled out a canvas. I hadn't painted in over a decade, but the brush in my hand felt like breathing. I didn't care what it looked like. It was mine. And then there was the small joy of little rebellions. I bought a bright red dress. I wore it to the grocery store. Nothing fancy, just lipstick, earrings, and a quiet smirk. And when I passed a mirror in the frozen food aisle, I didn't look away. I nodded. She's back. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. I hired a forensic accountant. Quiet, efficient, discreet. He didn't ask questions when I handed over Grant's financial statements and said, "Find what doesn't belong." 2 weeks later, he emailed a report. Grant had used my identity to funnel money into a shell corporation, one that was tied to a fraudulent green energy investment. The kicker? If the IRS ever came knocking, the trail would lead to me. That was the day I stopped thinking of him as my husband. He wasn't just selfish. He was dangerous. I sat with that knowledge for a full day, staring out the window as rain painted the glass. I could go to the authorities, report everything. But that would mean court, headlines, shame. My name dragged through the mud. And the kids? They'd be destroyed. There had to be a smarter way. So I started playing the long game. I sent anonymous tips to the SEC and IRS, just enough to raise eyebrows, not enough to trace back to me. I reactivated my old LinkedIn profile, reconnected with former colleagues. I smiled. I shook hands. I said I was consulting now. People believed it. They always had. Then I turned the screws. Grant was planning a luxury launch party for his latest sustainable venture. I made sure a well-placed journalist received every juicy detail about his offshore dealings 2 days before. The article dropped the morning of the event. He called me, voice shaking. "Did you have something to do with this?" I paused. "You always did like attention." "Olivia, this could ruin me." "Then it's working." Click. After that, the dominoes started to fall. His investors pulled out. His partners went silent. The young girlfriend, Bethany, posted a cryptic Instagram story. People aren't always who they say they are. 3 days later, her account was wiped clean. Gone. I kept the recordings, the emails, the backup drives. But I never showed my hand completely. I wanted him scared, not cornered. One night he came by the house. He didn't knock, just stood outside looking pathetic. "I never meant to hurt you," he said. I didn't open the door. I didn't even speak. I just turned on the porch light and stared. And then I smiled. Because the trap had been set, and he'd walked straight into it. For a while, he vanished. No calls, no drama, just silence. Then came the headlines. Local entrepreneur under federal investigation. His face was plastered on every business blog and social feed, the same face that used to beam with arrogance at company galas, now frozen in awkward court appearance screenshots. The IRS froze his accounts. His lawyer dropped him. His partners ghosted him. And me? I was just Olivia Reeves, the quiet ex-wife who politely declined interviews. My name was clean, impeccably so. Thanks to months of quiet rewrites, document cleanup, and one brilliant lawyer I paid with money from a personal account he didn't know existed. Then I pulled the final thread. I leaked the video. Not the one about the fraud. This one was personal. Him in our living room, mocking my body, belittling my dreams, laughing about how I used to be hot enough to shut up. A private moment. But I made it public. It went viral in a day. The comments were brutal. Not for me. For him. Disgusting. What a loser. This guy is a walking red flag. Women all over the internet tore him apart. His past behavior came crawling out from the shadows. Former employees. Old flames. Even his own cousin chimed in. None of this surprises me. Bethany dumped him in a 3-line tweet. Grant and I are no longer together. I wish him healing and accountability. His reputation didn't just burn. It turned to ash. He tried to blame me, claimed I was emotionally unstable, vengeful, obsessed. But no one bought it. Not anymore. Because I didn't scream. I didn't post rage-filled videos. I stayed calm, measured, strategic. The final blow? His face, a meme, on coffee mugs, TikToks, parody accounts. The man who left me because I got too fat was now a punchline on the internet. Unloved, unemployed, and unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. And I never even had to raise my voice. In the end, I didn't need a courtroom. I didn't need a dramatic final confrontation or a screaming match on a rainy street. All I needed were moments, precision, patience. Each journal entry became a chapter in my rebirth. Each move I made, a sentence in a story that was no longer about survival, but victory. And with every step, I dropped a quote, like breadcrumbs through the forest of my revenge. You broke the wrong woman. That was the night I published the video. Revenge isn't about justice, it's about memory. That one came after the story went viral, after I saw his face on a mug that read, "Worst husband ever." I used to be invisible. Now I'm unforgettable. That one. I wrote that after I bought a new house with my own name on the deed, and not a single thing in it that reminded me of him. Each phrase felt like closing a door. Not slamming it, just quietly, finally. Letting it click shut. I saw him one last time, slumped on a bench outside a rundown apartment complex, holding a takeout bag and looking 10 years older. He didn't see me at first. When he did, he stood up too fast and spilled his drink. "Olivia," he said, "I made mistakes. I was wrong. Please, can we talk?" I looked at him. Really looked. He was everything he deserved to be. I walked up, leaned in, and whispered, "You were right, Grant. No one else will ever want you." Then I turned and walked away, the red dress flowing behind me like fire.